What's going on, guys? We are here. Rlcs X has been announced. We got rid of the numbers. We're too cool for numbers at this point. We're moving to letters because everything is changing. We saw with RLCS seasons 1 through 9, it was always the same format for the most part. You know, league play, into a playoff, into a world championship. Now, it's a complete open circuit that will be played over a year, over 3 splits, points awarded to teams. Top points getters go to the world championship. That's a mouthful, and that is why I am going to explain all of this now. There's a lot to this format, and I got to work closely with Psyonix to figure out the best formats for each split and how it would be most fair to teams. We really wanted to look at a good way to get a lot of matches played. In the past, RLCS seasons 1 through 9, you would play 7 to 9 games in a season. You go to a playoff, and then from there, you're into the World Championship already. So you play like 9 best of 5s, right? That could determine if you're going to the World Championship or not. Now, with these splits, you're playing a lot more games, and we'll get into it. Like the Swiss system alone, for split 1, to make it to that major, you're going to have to play a ton more games, and that's only 1/3 of the season. So it's going to be a lot more fun because we're going to see these teams play a ton more. On top of that, there's other ancillary products as well, like the grid that's going to be happening with the RLCS teams. We won't talk about that too much here. We'll talk about that in some other video to not confuse you, but I am incredibly proud to work with Psyonix to present to you guys this format that we came up with, and let's just get to it. So before we start, we have to do a little bit of homework. We have to do a little dictionary time to explain exactly what all these terms mean. So first, we have the season. It's a full year-long event, consists of 3 splits. A split is 3 phases of the season, consists of 3 regionals and 1 major. The regionals are tournaments with the same format throughout a split. Split 1 is a Swiss format. 3 per split. They award points and prizing. Those points then will get you to a major. Now, these will be international majors when we can do that, but you will get double the points there and a lot more prize. And regionals have $100,000 on the line. Majors, $250,000 on the line. And of course, when it's international, that's going to be a land when we can get around to doing that. One thing to note, the major format is going to be the same as the regional formats in that split. So, split 1 is Swiss. The major will also be Swiss, so keep that in mind. Finally, World Championship. You can't see it all because there's so much words, so we'll just get rid of my face for a second. But top teams in points over the whole season, 3 splits, will attend and compete for $1 million. That is 6 from NA, 6 from Europe, 2 from OCE, and 2 from SAM. That's a mouthful. That's a lot, but at least a lot of these things are in 3s. We'll quickly go over the structure in maybe a little bit more of a reasonable way to show you. But there it is. Those are your definitions for today. Now, make a word of the day book for a week. There's only 5 of them, so you can take the weekend off and memorize these definitions. Let's move on. So the structure. Now, I can't do this graphically because I have no artistic ability whatsoever. So basically, bullet points: season, World Championship, 3 splits, 3 regionals, and 1 major. So the 3 regionals and 1 major are part of the 3 splits. The 3 splits will award you points to get to the World Championship. That all encompasses a season. Now, since RLCS, so Psyonix, they obviously have some artists. You know, they make some pretty good items. They also make some pretty good graphics from time to time. Not sure if it's the same person. It's probably not. But whatever. We're going to get into it anyway. Let's show the format, how they presented it in their announcement, the RLCS X format here. Basically, 3 tournaments for Europe, 3 tournaments for NA. That goes to a major. Then you do it again. 3 tournaments for Europe, 3 tournaments for NA. That goes to a major. Then again, 3 tournaments for Europe, 3 tournaments for NA. That goes to a major where, you know, when we can, will be an international major. So it's fall, winter, and spring splits. Now, OC and SAM are not on these boards, and we're not going to really talk about them too much yet, but they're going to be working with third parties once again from Psyonix to make their own formats to award teams to these majors and to award points and all of that. So their points will have to be pretty much the same in line, at least for to see who makes it to the major, then the major points, obviously, they will get from RLCS. So that is how it all plays out. Now, one thing to remember, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, is to qualify for a major with points, it has to be from that split. So, for example, if split 1 and Energy wins the entire thing, right? They win, they dominate NA, then they go to the major and win it. They got tons of points. They're probably like, we can coast through split 2. Well, they really can't, because when you get to major 2, that will only take points from split 2 to see who qualifies for it. Now, when you get to the World Championship, points will be from everywhere, right? All of your points combined will get you that World Championship spot. But this is so teams can't coast after having a really good split 1 and still make the majors and still acquire points easily throughout the last 2 splits. So just keep that in mind. So let's go back to my beautiful PowerPoint slide, because why not? And we'll move on. Now let's talk about the regional breakdown of what the regional tournaments are happening in Split 1. We haven't talked too much about Split 2 and Split 3. Those formats are not out yet. But those formats, no surprise, will be different, because every single split, we start at 32 teams for the main event for Split 1. We drop down to 24 for Split 2. We drop down to 20 for Split 3, and then obviously the World Championship, top 16. So, like, as we go throughout the year, it's going to get more and more competitive, more and more ruthless to even qualify for the main events that lead into the majors, the World Championship. So keep that in mind. But one of the best things I think about this entire format is open qualifiers. This is an open circuit. Literally any team can win this World Championship this year. It's not down to the, 36 teams that would have had the chance, right? The 20 from NA in Europe, and then the 8 from OC and SAM. So, or the 16, from OC and SAM combined. So now it's literally anyone can win it. But the best part is, I think, for the casual fan who likes to play with their buddies from time to time, they can sign up for all these open qualifiers and have some fun with it. Hope they play a pro team at some point and get eliminated by them or something. And that's a fun story to have. Like, oh man, we lost to, this great rival series team. And that would be really, really cool. So, in the past, seasons 1 through 9, the open qualifiers happen twice a year. That's it. And you could play in, obviously, to make play-ins and all of that stuff. Twice. But realistically, there was 2 open qualifiers for a year. Now, there is 3 per split for your region. So 9 open qualifiers throughout the year to participate in, to have some fun with some friends. And obviously for the teams that think they can make it, they get 9 chances to wow some people and all of that. So for the first one, open qualifiers, your standard double elim qualifier. I believe it starts on day 1. There's 4 days of open qualifiers. Day 1 is best of 3s, just trying to narrow it down to top 512 teams. Then you get to your best of 5s, and that drops down to top 64. This is where the rival series teams come in from season 9, the top 6 from rival series. So they will join those 58 teams that qualify for the top 64 to go to the top 64 round. Now, remember, 22 teams qualify for this main event. So it's pretty good odds at that point. So the rival series teams get a pretty decent bye going in. Then the 10 RLCS teams from season 9 automatically are entered to the main event. That's why only 22 teams out of the 32 qualify. And that will get you to our 32-team main event. So this is 4 days of open qualifiers. Now, the reason why it's 4 days, it goes, from completely open to 10,000 teams, down to 512, down to 64. Now teams are going to start qualifying on this day 3, but depending on, obviously teams might disband and all that have those automatic spots. That 22 teams could increase, but where it is right now, 8 teams are going to tie for those spots, those last few spots, and 2 of those teams have to go home because we can't fit 24 teams. 8 teams basically tie for 24th. But 2 of those teams have to go home, so they'll have to play on day 4 with some other format to try and get down to 22 teams. So keep that in mind for day 4 of qualifiers. Will usually be not part of the same bracket. It's going to be more of an extension of all these teams that tie for that last spot to play it out in a tiebreaker format. So that's how we get to our main event. Now let's go to our main event. This is 4 days of broadcast for every single one. Now, we talked about it before with that fancy graphic from the RLCS, which I will pop up again. Now, this all starts August 1st. So Europe will play August 1st. They'll play the following weekend as well. So they have both days, Saturday and Sunday. Then it's NA 2 weeks in a row. Then it's Europe 2 weeks in a row. Then it's NA 2 weeks in a row. Then for the final regionals, it's 4 days in a row on that weekend. So Europe goes first, Thursday through Sunday. Then NA follows up the following weekend, Thursday through Sunday. So that's 10 weeks of RLCS action from August through October, or to the start of October. And then obviously the major is going to happen somewhere in that October range, but the dates are not there yet. So that's how that all works out. And we'll get to Split 2 and Split 3 when the time comes, but those dates aren't out just yet. But you can see the general window of time when these will be played, like the May World Championship. So, going back, main event, 4 days of broadcast, and I will try and cut this up into those 4 days of broadcast, what is very likely will happen. The 32 teams will be split into 2 groups of 16 teams. They will play a 16-team Swiss format. 3 wins advance, 3 losses, and you're out. So, this will basically mean that day 1 is, Group A, 16 teams. They'll play it completely out. That is 5 rounds of Swiss. Then Group B will play on day 2, 5 rounds of Swiss. We'll get 8 teams out of both of those to make a top 16, to do another round of Swiss, to get to another top 8 teams, which then goes down to a ruthless single bracket where 1 loss and you're out. So, that is your final 8, and that'll be day 4 of the bracket. So, let's talk about what this format exactly is, because I know a lot of people get confused by Swiss. Basically, we'll show this here. So this is from an old event of like CSGO, basically. And they used to do Swiss like this. I think they still do Swiss in a lot of their phases of tournaments. But basically, you have your 16 teams, which I can't really point on the screen, but you understand in round 1, no one's won a game yet. They all play one another. Now, one thing to note, a lot of times Swiss is completely random. I can tell you not the exact way that we're going to match up teams, but it will not be completely random. There'll be slight random elements, but teams will still be seeded to a certain extent. So you don't get like a complete random bracket where the number 1 and number 2 team play each other in round 1. That will not happen. So basically, you have your 8 matchups. Then you go down to 8 teams go 1-0, 8 teams go 0-1. They all play one another. So the 8 1-0s play each other, the 8 0-1s. It's basically a bracket at this point, but it's not a bracket because, say in a normal bracket, the 16 seed beats a 1 seed. And if that happened, big upset. The 16 seed then inherits the 1 seed's bracket. That will not happen in Swiss. They will get somewhere in the middle because of, we'll have to seed them again by committee, yada, yada. And it won't be where they're just considered the best team in the entire bracket at that point. So you move on. You get 4 teams left at 2-0, 4 teams left at 0-2. There's a bunch of teams in the middle at 1-1. So again, all 3 of these groups just match up against one another. Those 2-0s, though, if you win at that point, you are through. You are out of the Swiss stage. So you will go 3-0 and you will advance. When that comes down to the top 16 teams, then that will mean that you will get the top 2 seeds going into that bracket stage on the final day. So that's very important. You move back down from there. You got a bunch of teams 2-1, a bunch of teams 1-2. There's also 2 teams that got eliminated at 0-3. You play those out. Again, those 2-1 matchups, very important. You go 3-1. Your seeds 2 through 5 at that point. I'm sorry, 3 through 5 at that point for the final day. That is when we get down to our top 16. Before that, when there's 2 groups of 16 Swiss, obviously you're just going to be all lopped back into a big Swiss. But for that first round again, you're probably going to get a better matchup if you're 3-1 through your first bracket. Then, you'll probably avoid the 3-0 teams because the 3-2 teams will very likely play those on the following weekend. So then you finally go down to there's 3 matchups left at 2-2 of teams that are still in it, and those matchups are win or go home. 3 teams will advance, 3 teams will be out. Now, if you look at the green squares, that is 8 teams advance, and the red squares, 8 teams are out. So it splits it evenly throughout. Now, the reason why we wanted to do Swiss for Split 1 is we wanted teams to get a ton of games where there's a slight RNG element probably still that will happen here, because obviously no one really knows where to seed these guys right at first. And so this gives an opportunity over 3 regional tournaments to get a bunch of matches in versus varied opponents to really see where these teams land. And then obviously on the Sunday, 8 teams left, single elimination bracket is going to be nuts. And again, those 3-0s, we'll play 3-2s, and we'll have to figure out exactly how to work, the 3-1s versus the 3-2, the one lone 3-2 left, and the other 2 3-1s will have to play one another. So that's how it all plays out. Now, this is 3 of these in a row, and then we go to the major. So that is the format that we were going with for Split 1. Now, again, Split 2, 24 teams. It's going to be a completely different format, so just keep that in mind. We'll talk more about that in the future. But moving on, I think that's actually it. I can't remember. Let's see what this slide is. Oh, yeah, this is an old slide. So, yeah, that's it. So you got your Swiss format. For Regional 1, we broke it down. Now, again, there's more to talk about, and we will talk about that in the future. But I wanted to try and break these down in chunks. So today we talked all about the format, the structure of the entire tournament or the entire season. One question I got a lot on Twitter is like, so there's no more league play? Yes, there is no more league play across any of these. All of these are tournaments now. Even the grid, which we'll talk about in the next video or the video after that, is all tournament-based now, which the one great thing about that is we're going to see fantastic matches every single time. It's not going to be like one of those teams that's 0-7, and you're like, well, got to watch these guys play their last 2 games. And well, guess what? They'll be either gone from the tournament or we're just not going to show them on stream because they're like lower down in the thing. So we're going to show a lot more high-quality Rocket League matches, but at the same time, players are going to play so much more competitive Rocket League, and it'll really show who the consistent teams are. So instead of having a team just have a really good 3-week span and could make a world championship off that, you got to do this for 3 splits at this point. You got to do this for a full year to really earn your spot. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Once again, I'm incredibly proud that I got to help build a format for a multi-million-dollar tournament. It is amazing that we're at this stage. I am so happy to be where I am right now. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know in the comments below what you're kind of confused about still, or what you don't like, or what you do like. Because, like obviously, not every format will be a format that everyone likes. That's just the way it is. But this is what we came up with for Split 1. I hope you guys enjoy. There's going to be so much Rocket League to watch. There's too much Rocket League to watch. This is going to make my job a little bit harder because I got to watch a lot of Rocket League. But it's going to be a lot of fun. I always enjoy watching the top teams battle it out. And again, thank you guys so much. And we'll see you in the next video. We'll talk about tiebreakers. We'll talk about roster moves. We'll talk about the grid in these next videos coming up. But thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.